Welcome everybody. Welcome back to day two, and I'm going to go ahead and get started again. I think most everybody's was here yesterday, but if not, I'm Nancy Wallace Lobbs. I'm going to be your presenter today, and it's all about short-term rentals. And because I wanted to really have kind of a powwow and dig in deeper, it's not just about, okay, I'm going to buy the property, I'm going to decorate it, I'm going to throw it up on Airbnb. There's also some things you can do to really increase your business, increase your bookings. And so a lot of times, we get so focused on where do I find the property and what should I decorate it with and how many rolls of toilet paper, that we forget that, this is one of those businesses that you've got to touch. It's not just set it up there and then it's all gone. So today I'm going to talk about marketing and increasing bookings. Once I'm done, what we'll do is we'll have some time for some Q&A at the end. And then tomorrow, same time, same place, we're going to talk about I'm going to be doing the top frequently asked questions about short-term rentals. And if you have a burning question, put it in the chat and I'll make sure to cover it tomorrow. Everyone will be getting a copy of the replay. What we'll do is send you an email link so that you can have this forever and ever. And I hope that you really like this presentation today. So this is a little bit different one than I've done in the past. And it's some things that I've done that have really helped my Airbnb business. So without further ado, let's get started. So in this presentation, what I'm going to be going over is, yesterday I talked about AirDNA and how to figure out what you can charge, and when you're for your nightly rates and beds, and we talked about how you can increase your occupancy by adding certain amenities and things like that. So we're going to be talking about pricing strategies and also some ideas that you may or may not have thought of about how to market your short-term rental. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about is you've got to know your financial limits. So like anything in real estate investing, there's the due diligence. There's, finding a budget that works for you. Now, I was saying that tomorrow I'm going to be doing a presentation for Real Estate IQ on how to recession-proof your business, your real estate investing business. And so one of the things that, I'm going to be talking about is we want to avoid going into huge debt. Now, when you buy real estate investing, obviously, unless you have cash, you're going to be acquiring a mortgage, you're going to have holding costs, but what you need to really think about is it might be nice to totally trick your house out with smart technology, smart lights and thermostats and things like that. But you do have to look at the cost of installation and maintenance. And if that's something that, especially when you're first starting out, it's not a requirement that you do. Really, if you focus on the guest experience, what can you do? Your place needs to be spick and span clean. It's a feeling of welcome. I know some hosts that go all out and they, buy a bunch of stuff. I have, a welcome basket. I don't provide wine, and some hosts do. It's totally up to you. But again, it's one of those expense things, because if you start, I don't know. I know you can buy a case of, I guess you could buy a case of wine for like, I don't know, $2 a bottle. It'd be some pretty cheap wine. So it might not be very good. But some of the guest experiences are going to be about how welcome they feel at your property. So the only smart technology that I incorporate is I use Ring cameras for the outside. It does record both audio and video. You can download the pictures. And I used to use the Nest thermostat, but it became such a problem with that technology that my guests were having problems. So I just took it off, and, I just had some very specific instructions about how to use the thermostat. So, but know what your furnishing budget. And I think you've all heard me talk about this on my first short-term rental, man. I went all out and got all brand new stuff, brand new furniture and all of that. And so after I said, oh, wait a minute, the return on the investment after I bought the property and everything, I might not see really a return on my investment for like 6 to 12 months. So if you're first starting out and you're kind of on the cusp of whether you think that this is going to be profitable, depending on the area you're in and everything, and you have time, and you can save a lot of money by buying some really nice things off of Facebook Marketplace, which is what I did for my subsequent ones. Now, I always do spend good money on sleeping mattresses. I just think that's very important. And, because I always say, like, if people have something go wrong in your property and they didn't have a good night's sleep, they're probably going to be kind of grouchy. So just know before you go into it, and you can expect to spend about somewhere between ten and $15,000 on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. So if it's smaller, you may get away with a little bit less. If it's larger, I just spoke to a friend of mine that spent, she has a very high end property. It's $1 million property, and she's already at $42,000 because she can't put Facebook Market stuff in there, or discounted. It needs to be nice because of the price that she's going to be able to charge for her property. Now, the numbers. So, and I have to say that when I said don't base pricing on need. So a lot of people get into this short-term rental because they want a second home. They want a vacation rental at some place they want to go to. And that's exactly how I started. I bought a property that the sole purpose was for my family and I to use it. And so, yes, we probably spent more on furnishings and things that we wanted because we knew we were going to be staying there part of the time. But for the most part, the decisions I make about what I'm going to put into a property, whether it's a long-term rental or short-term rental, is I don't get emotionally invested. So I see a lot of posts a lot of times because one of the things I love about real estate investors that we just have such a varied background. And if you're an interior, and I've seen people that have posted about they're an interior decorator, or maybe that's just your forte. You're really great at decorating, but you may have a higher end budget, and that's fine. But what's going to be the return? Because we don't want to get emotionally invested in our rental properties, short term or long term, because you're going to have basically strangers in there using your things, breaking your things. You're going to have to replace things. So the more emotionally attached you are, the harder it's going to be for you to be successful, because you're going to get upset that they, broke a bed. So one of the things I talk about is the bedroom furniture. So for example, you can buy those nice wooden, they're kind of like you have the box springs and the wood frame that goes around it. Look on any Airbnb Facebook group and you will see picture after picture of where those get broken. So my husband and I said, you know what, I'm not going to spend that kind of money for the bed headboard and rails, I guess it is. So what we did is we bought the metal ones. You can get them for $40 or $50. We got the mattress and box springs, and then I don't like cloth headboards. The reason I don't like cloth headboards is I haven't yet, but if I would ever to get bed bugs, that's the first thing that's going to have to be thrown out, because they're going to be on there. So we did very creative headboards. For example, I had a couple of old doors left over from a rehab. So my husband trimmed them up, put a little crown molding, I painted them, and we screwed them to the wall, and that was our headboards. On another house, we had a huge king size bed, and it was one of those oversized king size bed. And the headboard was going to cost more than the bed itself. So I needed to kind of find something fast, and I didn't really have time to do another door, and the door that I was looking at wasn't wide enough. And, I didn't want cloth. So you know what I did? I went to Home Depot and I bought fence lattice, and I nailed that to the wall, and it looked great. And we had a blue and white themed bedroom, and it just turned out perfect. I didn't even have to paint it. It was really good. So the point about the numbers is try to avoid further debt when you're starting a short-term rental business, because you are going to have a lot of out-of-pocket costs. Some things that you might not even think about. So like for utilities, depending on if you're investing in an area that, you haven't built up a credit, or you're new to that utility company, they're going to want a deposit. I had to pay a $250 deposit, or the trash people, they want, payment now and payment a month in advance. You're going to have cable and Wi-Fi set up, and then you're going to have those ongoing costs. So you really need to sit down, and part of what I teach people is about how to do their business plan and about how to put all those expenses together so that you, at the end of the day, know how much money each month that Airbnb must make. And you should be doing that even before you decide to turn it into a short-term rental. You really got to know what your monthly number is. And just like in long-term rentals, you cannot set the rent based on what your mortgage is. You have to set the nightly rate, what you're going to charge for your Airbnb based on the area, based on your competition, based on need. So that number may be lower than what you need to collect. And so let's say you're in a destination area that typically people only book weekends. So what are you going to do? And luckily I have some advice for you today. But what are you going to do to fill the Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? Because most people are coming in on Friday and they're leaving on Sunday. So you got 4 additional days that are sitting there where your property's not booked. So think about all of those expenses, make a list. I'm old school, like, write it all down. So you have utilities, insurance, maintenance and unexpected repairs. I mean, think about air conditioning filters, a lot of, especially if you're in Texas, you need to change out your air filters, some places 3 months, some 6, but that's something that can really wreck your AC unit. So you've got to, that's a little thing. I mean, air filters don't cost that much money, but they need to be budgeted. And then once you have that number, right, then you need to know how to adjust your pricing. So as I've said before, and in other presentations, I've talked about Air DNA. And Air DNA is where you go to find out what your property would likely, what you would likely be able to charge per night. And it's just an estimation. So from that, you can kind of project what you can expect to pay. And if you watch yesterday's presentation, I talked about the booking rate and that your booking rate should be between 1% and 3%. If you didn't get to day 1 yet, go back and watch that. So then you can project, okay, let's just use 1%. So how many bookings do you need to have in a month at what price in order to not just meet your monthly nugget, but to make money? Because isn't that why you're doing this? To make money. And so some of the things that are in the favor of a short-term rental owner is that you can go in and adjust different days, different holidays. When I know that there's a big event or a holiday, I go in and I manually adjust the different days. So it's really important to know what's going on in and around your community of where your short-term rental is. Now, you might say, well, Nancy, how do I do that? Or I don't have time to do that. Then you need to hire a virtual assistant to help you. There are all the platforms, Airbnb and VRB, I'll speak to mostly, they have a pricing tool. They'll say, okay, well, you can try to, what do they say? This is a suggested price. And you can do that. I mean, you could put that price in. Sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. I'll kind of look at what my views are, how many people are looking at my properties, how many bookings am I getting, and do I have some windows that I need to fill? So the pricing tools that you'll see, especially on Airbnb, look at all the properties that are in the surrounding area, and they'll say, okay, well, this is the average, rate that these other properties, but it's not always apples to apples because you might have a really stellar lakefront, you provide all these amenities. So maybe your competitors are doing 225, maybe you should do 235, right? So you don't want to do 275 or 300 if no one else in the area is doing that, because your property is going to be the last to be booked. Not always, but just kind of keep that in mind. Change your prices to affect future dates. And when you do that, it doesn't affect current bookings. So for example, if you are new to the platform and you just go in and say, okay, I'm going to get $150 a night, and you put that in as your nightly rate all throughout the year, because that's what will happen. The whole calendar will be filled up. This is your price, $150 a night, unless you go in and change it. Now, let's say that you have your calendar open up to December, and somebody books your property during Christmas week, right? And you happen to be in an area that, you could be getting $400 a night for that. But because you didn't think ahead, you only got 150 a night. So someone can do the math, but you just lost out on a bunch of money during that 1 week. So you can see how, so if they've already booked it, you can't go in and say, oh, hey, sorry, I meant to charge you $400 a night, but you booked it for 150. So you can't go back and do that. But all the dates around that would be, if you went in and did the changing, would affect all the dates around that, but not people who have already booked. Now, if the people end up canceling, then you can go ahead and change the dates, but it's not going to affect the people who have already booked. And like I said, just use the numbers from the platform as a guide, kind of know your area and what's going on. And as I said yesterday, always check, go on Airbnb as a guest and check your competitors. What are the other short-term rentals around your area charging? And if you're really trying to get booked, one thing you can do is if you find, you can click on those prices, use the map like I teach and everything. And you could go in there and you could see, well, what are they providing that you're not providing or vice versa. And then if you want to be, $10 lower, you don't have to drop it, $50. Maybe if you just go in there at $5, because as people are, paying, almost $4 a gallon, it's going down a little bit, but, food's up, everything's up. So people are price shopping. And so you want to be competitive, but you don't want to be so low that you're attracting the wrong kind of guest. Now, there are other income streams, and some of these I've done, and some of these I've thought about doing. But during the off season, in an area where, yesterday I think I used Arizona as an example when, maybe June and July, it's a little bit slower because it's hot there. If you've never been to Phoenix, it's super hot in June and July. And they say it's a dry heat, but when it's 120, it doesn't matter if it's dry or wet. Now, one thing that I did, and I kind of stumbled across this, was all my properties have a garage, but in my listing, I let people know the garage is not available. Okay. However, if they want, so I was asked one time, well, can we use the garage? And I was like, well, sure. It's $50 extra a night, and they paid it. So if you have, now my garage one is attached, or a couple of them are attached and one is not. And I just make sure on the ones that are attached, I have a special lock from the door that goes into the garage so that they don't have access to it. It's in my description of my property. So, they already know the garage is not available, but if they want to rent it, then I charge extra for that. Some of these things I do, Mila, can you see the entire screen down there, the very last one?
Yes, until the pet sitting
Yes.
service.
Okay.
Yep.
So we are pet friendly, and we provide, a lot of things for our pet friendly guests. I don't do cats, and I do charge a one-time pet fee. It's not a deposit, So, being pet friendly, I have a limit of 2 dogs per stay, and I charge anywhere from $150 to $200. Now, is that going to make me rich? No. And what I do with that money is I kind of, on my accounting side, just kind of hold it in escrow, if you will. So if I ever do have any extra cleaning or extra damage from pets, I have that money kind of set aside. But I tell you what, in the time I've been doing it, I haven't had any damages from pets. Now, I have had damages from kids. Oh, sorry about that. My phone rang and I had to go back. From kids, so, I had one family that their child decided to hang and swing on my bathroom door, and it kind of ripped it from the hinges. I've had, food and whatnot in beds. So for me, I don't take cats, but I do dogs. So the other thing that you can do is you can just offer additional services. So if you have a boat or you have bikes, I mean, you can do bike rentals. If you have a motorcycle and you want to get into rentals. Now, I will say this, make sure you have all the liability waivers, contact your insurance company, but you can, like if you're in a mountain area and you want to provide bikes, you can do that for your guests at a charge. Now some of these, make sense, some not, but you could offer airport pickup service. You could offer for midterm and longer stays, you can offer additional cleaning services. You can, I know one person, she runs kind of a concierge service, and what she does is when her guests are coming, she literally says, "Hey, I'm going to stock the fridge for you, and it's at a fee." And she'll kind of get a grocery list from them, and she'll get their items. I've been asked about providing decorations for Christmas, or, think of any holiday. Somebody wants to have a bridal shower, somebody wants to have, I mean, you can't have a party, but, if they're asking, maybe it's a special, honeymoons kind of situation, and they are asking you to get, a bottle of champagne and, some candy or something like, so you can offer these services. So the way you do that is after the booking, and you have found out why they're coming, say, "Oh, well, did you know that we offer ABC?" If you have corporate people in, you could offer laundry service. Now, you can either be doing this yourself, or you can hire somebody and kind of charge a little bit more for it. But these are other ways that you can create income through your short-term rental. Some are going to work for you, some are not. Now, one of the things I started doing, and this is actually pretty good, it doesn't work for every guest, but once I have my booking at my normal rate of what I charge, whether it's a holiday weekend or whatever, what I've done is I've started, after the booking is done, I've vetted the person and all that, and we're good to go. They paid. Then I reach out to them and say, "Hey, Miss Sarah, if you're able to come in a day early, I'll give you 50% off an early day check-in." Or I'll say, "Or if you're able to extend your stay by one day, I'll give you 35% off." Now, the reason I would do that, or you would want to do that, is so a lot of my people are coming Friday and Saturday. I have weekend people. So I'm trying to book out, Thursday and a Monday. So they don't have to pay another cleaning fee. The property is going to be sitting there vacant anyway, and I'm still paying the utilities and all of that. So if let's say I get $300 a night for my short-term rental on Friday and Saturday, but Thursday I'm saying, "Hey, if you guys want to come in a day early, I'll give it to you for 150." And then on Monday, let's say, I don't know what the math is on 35, but let's just say it's, I don't know, 225, or, someone, you can make up whatever discount you want. And you can offer an early day check-in discount and a late day checkout. So and then the way you get paid is you would do it through Airbnb. You could do it through the resolution platform, and just, you can amend the stay and that kind of thing. So offering each guest a discount, even if only 25% of them did it. So at that rate, you could be making another $200 or $400 a month just by doing this one thing. So some of the additional income, it fills your off days. And like I said, you're not incurring any more on cleaning or anything like that, because the cleaner's already going to go in there. And so this is just something that I started doing. Right now, about 25% of the people are going for it. So, and this kind of goes back to the driving distance, like if people, because my check-in is at 3 o'clock. So if they get off of work on Thursday, maybe they'll get off a little early and they can come down and they can get their, little stays started, or maybe they can make arrangements that they want to check out. So basically they would be staying through Sunday. They'd be checking out Monday. And so maybe they could drive close enough that they can, get their kids to school, or maybe it's a school holiday, the kids are out of school quite a bit. So you just never know, but you can definitely ask each guest after they've booked if they can either want to come in one day early for the 50%, and it doesn't have to be 50, that's just what I'm doing. And then 35, 50, whatever you want to do for a late checkout. And it'd be great if they did it on both ends, right? So again, it's just something that I started doing, and I get about 25% of the people who book say, "Yeah, I'd like to do that." Now, you need to start creating a database. So if you're already on Airbnb, you know this. Airbnb will give you a phone number, but they will not give you the person's email. And if you try to get their email, because I did it, I would email people and say, "Hey, I'd like to email you," and it will be, and they'll say, "Oh, here's my email," and Airbnb will block it. You will not be able to see it. I mean, you have a phone number for them. So what I started doing when I first started is I would text people and say, "Hey, I'd like to keep in touch with you, let you know about any special offers. Please send me your email." That's one way of getting it. The other thing that I do is I have like a registration form in my Airbnb. And I ask people to fill it out so that I can keep in touch with them, send them special offers, for slower off season times. Now, obviously, I'm only inviting back the people who were good guests. If they were a bad guest, no, not all guests are going to go on your list. But this is also a way you can send friends and family a notice of upcoming events in your area. And you can also create a referral program for your repeat guests. So let's say that they refer one of their family members or friends. So let's say you'll give them a 25% discount on their next stay. They have to book it. You can put time frames in it. So let's say if you send me somebody in the next 90 days, I'll give you 25% off of your next booking as long as it occurs in the first 6 months. So, you can get creative with it or set your own parameters, but that's a great way to get the word out about your short-term rental and to get more bookings. Now, if you are not already on multiple platforms, you should be. I think the last time I read, there was about 100 platforms where you could list your short-term rental. Now, Airbnb, of course, is going to be the biggie. That's the largest one. That's the company that everybody, wants to be on. And I think yesterday I was saying that I am on Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Furnish Finders, and Expedia. And I do use hospitable.com to link all of those calendars because when you go on multiple platforms, you'll want to make sure you have good calendar management so you're not, overbooking. And a hospitable.com is just one. There's OwnerRes, there's Guesty. What I liked about hospitable.com, and they're not paying me for this, I'm just telling you my experience, is number one, I didn't have to enter into a contract, and they were very affordable. So I was like, okay, and I'm not a techie person, as y'all know, as we started here. So Furnish Finders is for traveling nurses, Expedia, Homestay. There's places that you can go for corporate rentals. I mean, there's just a ton of places. So you need to be on multiple platforms. Now, I don't always have the same pricing on the same platforms. Does that make sense? So what I've learned from booking.com is that the folks that come there typically don't usually want to pay as much or whatever. So you might see my listing on 2 or 3 different sites and it has different prices. So my best prices are usually on Airbnb because that's the one that I go into the most to adjust and everything. So I don't always go in and adjust on every single platform every single time, right? Because right now about 80% of my bookings are coming from Airbnb. I get on VRBO, I get 14%, and the rest of them are direct. So I get, a handful from booking.com, a couple from Furnish Finders, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm doing the way I'm doing. Now, if that were to shift, then yes, I would go into those platforms, but I'm just kind of telling you how I do it. Now, we're going to kind of get into marketing because again, it's not just throw your listing up on social or on the Airbnb platform and walk away and hope you get bookings. You do have to kind of build your presence, just like anything. You have to market. So I'm going to talk about some marketing things that I've done. Social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can just what I like to do is I'll put out like an event that's happening in my community and say, and here's a place to stay, and have the link to my listing. You should be creating a URL and eventually build a website. This is not anything you don't have to do right away. But if you have a name of a property that you like, then go out and try to get the domain name, because eventually you might, or maybe you want to have like, I can't think of any names that would be multiple properties, but some name that all your vacation properties, like if you had a website, what would be the domain name? And of course, you can have more than one domain name and have it, directed right to that website. Get involved with the Chamber of Commerce in your area. I actually join when I can because you can promote it. It just depends on the area and if they are really good about tourism, which leads me to the tourism office. So, find out if you can get on the website. Do they advertise short-term rentals in your area? Create rack cards or QR codes, which I'm going to go into this a little bit in just a minute, and place them in your short-term rental. Like advertise, especially if you have more than one. One of the things that we're working on is we do have rack cards in each of our short-term rentals that show the other, show some other properties. But I'm working on basically like a coffee book, right? A coffee book of all my short-term rentals so that when people are in there, like, oh, look, they have this one here and they have this one there. So if you have them in different parts of the country or you offer different type of experiences, this is just another way to showcase your short-term rental so that people are like, oh, look, we can go book here. And then again, make sure you have the name or how to find it. Like, what is the link to get to that listing? And then I created, and this is super easy. And if you guys know, not techie, but I created an Instagram account for my short-term rentals and I created a QR code. I was actually really proud of myself. Mila helped me. And then we printed up, follow us on social media, and we put those in our short-term rentals. So that's just another way to kind of keep connected and it's really, really all I did was Google how to make a QR code from Instagram. It took me like 5 minutes. So if I can do it, I know you guys can do it. Now here's an example of one of our rack cards. And I had those printed up. They're on kind of nice paper. You don't want these to be too flimsy. So they're like a card. And I took them to the Chamber of Commerce office. I put them in the actual property. On the back side, it has all my contact and more info. I give them to local businesses. So if there's venues like music venues, let's see, restaurants, shops that you can put these in, the more you can get out there, the better. In your networking groups, if you go to any networking groups in that community, the tourism office is a great place, where they have those, here's all the things to do. And sometimes they'll let you put these in there. Hospitals. I actually drove to some hospitals and found the HR department, and I didn't make an appointment or anything. I just went in right into the hospital. And I said, hey, if you ever have traveling nurses or traveling doctors or family members that are wanting to stay close by, here's where they can look for some properties. Insurance offices. So why do I put this? Well, because a lot of times when there's a fire, tragedy happens and then the person has to get out of their home and maybe they don't want to stay in a hotel for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. So, insurance companies, when I had my property management company a while ago, I would have insurance companies literally call me and ask me if I had any short-term rentals. And this was back in when I didn't have any. So that does happen. And then the other one is builders. Now think about this. If you have a client or someone that's selling their home, it's not as crazy as it was, but it's still crazy. And they want to sell their house, but they're building. And so you all know shortages, labor shortages, et cetera, et cetera. So builders have been taking a little bit longer. So people may need a stopgap. So they've sold their home, their new home isn't ready yet. And this could even happen if they were selling their house. Now you're getting into midterm rentals, which you're going to need a different rental agreement. But these are just different areas and different ways that you can get the word out about your short-term rental. Okay, I already talked about the QR code, but did you know this? You can make a YouTube video and you could do like check-in instructions or a video tour of your property. And you just create a link and you can create a QR code. So you can send that to people, you can put it on social media. You could create a QR code for customized greetings. I saw one house, I didn't do this in my house, and it depends on, if you have a very techie house, people sometimes they like if I came to your house, I would need instructions, and I'm sure you don't want to hear from me. So they put QR codes next to this thermostat, or maybe to the smart lighting, or maybe they have a special type of oven that has all kinds of buttons that you don't know what it is. So it's real easy to create these QR codes and literally put them in your house. You can do it for a welcome book, your house rules. You could have a QR code, like how after COVID, we went to restaurants, they wanted to just give us a QR code instead of the regular menu. So there's so many things that you can use with a QR code, and people love it because they can just scan it. It comes up on their phone, boom, they're good to go. You can also, now I haven't done this, but this is something that you could do. I've read about it. So if you know someone or you want to invite an influencer, somebody that's got a lot of followers on Instagram, you can actually reach out to those folks and invite them to stay at your property, either with a discount or free stay for free. Now, pros and cons on this. So you never know how they're going to treat your property, I've heard horror stories, but I've also heard good stories. So you just want to do your due diligence there. You can also do this with bloggers. Like you can write an article about your area, about, maybe there's a festival going on. Maybe there's, a special event. You could write about that, and you could submit it to travel bloggers and also magazines, so you can submit those articles. They don't have to be extremely long, and you can have a link to your listing in the article, right? So post about upcoming events in your area and a link to where to stay. So I do this on social media, but you could do it in a blog, if there's a community newspaper. I mean, just get creative. Where can people see your your listing? And that's really what we're talking about. It's not just about, okay, I'm going to put on Airbnb and hope for the best. You have to be proactive if you want to stay booked. Now, direct booking, I talk about this quite a bit, and this is something that, I'm doing and you should be working on, even if you're brand new, a short-term rental owner, or if you have multiple. So the reason you would want to move to direct booking is twofold. Number one, if you are only on one platform, such as Airbnb, and they have a change of their terms of service, like usually it has to do with the cancellation policy, something that, because they're a global, right? They're a global company. So they're not making changes for your benefit. They're making changes for the company's benefit. And so some of those changes may not be good for you as a host, and you may get listings canceled. But also Airbnb and VRBO and all of them have fees. So if you go in and create a direct booking site where people can literally book your property directly, then you can be a little bit more competitive because you don't have to have all the fees. You still have to collect the taxes and things like that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start collecting emails from every single guest. And I talked about that. You can't just get it off the platform. You have to kind of be proactive. Either have registration cards in your short-term rentals, or contact them via text or something like that. And then we talked about creating the website with your URL, and this doesn't have to be fancy. It can just have your property on it, a few pictures. You should have some branded marketing material. So we talked about the rack cards, but you could also have flyers. I mean, just, it's endless. I mean, what you could be doing, and they could be branded with whatever your brand is going to be for your property. You can you have special offers. You can have coupon codes. You can post guest reviews. I've seen people do this, like literally take them from I have a welcome book and a guest book. Like I ask people to write their comments and everything. So you can take pictures, put that on there, but it also gives you some insight. Like, okay, they really liked it. Like I've had some great stories, but sometimes people tell you things like, for example, we had these people, they loved our property. They just wrote us a glowing review, not only on the platform, but also in our guest book. And so I get to keep that. But one of the things that happened was that their dog passed away. I mean, because remember, we're pet friendly. Their dog passed away while they were at our property. It got sick. They took it to the vet. So in our welcome book, we have the vet emergency. So she thanked for me for that. They were, took their animal. Unfortunately, the animal didn't make it, and that was kind of sad, but they were glad. What they wrote to me was that they were glad that their puppy dog's last days were at our house. So now he didn't die in the house, but you know what I'm saying. So have a guest book. It's really nice. So now it gives the dates when the people were in. It gives usually the family, all the names, and in the book it says, what'd you do? So now I have the person's contact info. And so let's say they like fishing. That was one of the big things. So now when there's a big fishing contest or bass fishing or whatever it is, or fishing's really good at the lake, I can email them and say, hey, they're really predicting, fishing to be great. Since you guys were such great guests, we're going to offer you a 15% discount if you want to book this weekend or this weekend. So you have a way to build rapport and a relationship with your past guests. And that's how you start building your basically book of business. Now, I want to thank everybody for coming. Now, I do have a couple of offers for you guys. I'm going to take your questions here in a second. But, I've spent a lot of time presenting about short-term rentals. I mean, last night I had another call like at 7:30, presenting again tomorrow. And it's still hot. Even though the market is changing, it's still hot. So I have done a couple things. So number one, I put together the short-term rental guide starter kit. It's everything you need to know to get started. It has links to things. It has the rental agreement, it has everything. And that's $49.95. But I also have online courses. Now, if this is something that you're interested in, either email me directly at nancy@kbnhomes.com. Normally these courses go for $4.95 each, but I'm doing a special, like it's going to be 3 for $330. So basically $110. And if you sign up for the courses, then you're going to get the guide for free. So basically you're getting like, what is that? $15.50 for $330. So if that's something that you're interested in, just either drop in chat or email me at nancy@kbnhomes.com. Now, I also, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I've got a bunch of stuff out there about short-term rentals. Please go to my channel and, watch some of the videos. You can always follow up with me. When you do all the courses, I also do like a free consultation with you, whether you're at the beginning. Like last night I talked to some folks and we kind of went through some of the basics of where to start. They're just in the very beginning. And so I said, okay, well, I gave them all the info they needed. And I said, well, circle back with me so that when you actually have it, we can work together to get you up and running. So again, I want to thank you. And now I'm going to take questions if we have any. Mila, do we have any?
Yes, from Marla, regarding the garage.
Yes.
Yep. She's asking if are they wanting the garage to just park their vehicles in?
Yes. So, okay, good question. So the first time it happened, I have workers, like they come to work on the power plant or the roads or whatever. And so they had a trailer with a lot of equipment on it. So they wanted someplace to store their equipment that was safe. So I said, okay, well, you can use the garage, and here's what it is. Yes, they're wanting to park their car in. So, it's super hot in Texas. So people wanted to have the garage because if it's attached to the house, they can go from the garage right into the house. But yes, it's either they want to store things there or they want to put their car in. And yes, I do agree with you on the boat. So we do have kind of a whole thing. We don't actually do that. What we've contemplated doing as far as a service, if we're in the area, is giving boat rides because people actually don't know how. I wouldn't personally put someone behind a boat. I saw somebody was looking to rent a boat, and she literally on Facebook said, I have no boating experience, and you have to have all the right insurance and all of that. So yeah, there's a huge liability for renting boats. Now, there are companies that we could rent our boat to, then they turn around and provide the service. So okay, do
And
we have any other questions? Keep it coming. Okay, if someone is staying for long term and you offer cleaning services, how much do you charge? So if they're going in like every 2 weeks, it's going to be, it depends on the property, but my cleaner is going, she's not going to be changing the linens, right? She's going, or she may be, if she's doing a full clean with the linens and the laundry, so she's going to charge me the full amount. Now, depending on how long they're there, it's going to be somewhere between 100 and 150 every 2 weeks. And that's actually mandatory. And it also is a good idea if you do have midterm is longer. You want to make sure that they're taking care of the property, and always, this is my recommendation on short-term rentals. If you have people that want to stay in your property longer, just do 28-day increments and have that cleaner, because if they're not taking care of the property and they're there past the 30 days, you know what? Now you have a tenant. And so now you got to evict. So you got to be careful with mid and long terms in the short term rental house, right? So you want to make sure, and what you can always do is, like, they can rebook the 28 days and so on. There's other ways around it. You just got to have a really strong rental agreement. And I would encourage you to have cleaners go in there at their expense to check on the property and make sure they're not tearing it up. Because the last thing you'd want is for somebody to be in your property for 3 months, only to find out at the end of the 3 months, it's going to take you like $4,000 to repaint and carpet or whatever. So if you are charged 100 of, oh, okay. So on my cleaning fee, I'm not making a boatload of money there. I usually just charge what, I pay my cleaner. So, but what she does do for me is, since she does multiple houses for me, and I would encourage you to, negotiate with your cleaners if it's the same cleaning service and they're cleaning multiple houses. So each house that she does for me is $25 less than the other house. So, if I pay 150, then I'll be paying 125 or 150 or 175. And then I pass that on to the person. Now, if I'm looking at my competition, I see that people are doing $75 cleaning fee and I'm doing 150, because people look at that. So I might lower my cleaning fee to 75, but I build it back into my nightly rate, because I don't want to be upset, because cleaning is an expense to the owner. So I'm not making money off of the cleaning fee, and I also don't want to lose money off of the cleaning fee. That makes sense. All righty then. Do we have any other questions? All right, guys. Well, I'm going to sign off if there's no other questions, and you all will be getting a link for tomorrow. But yes, you'll get the replays. Everybody will get the replays. And we'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining me. I appreciate it.
The training, they're asking how many days it will be the last tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow will be the last, and then you'll have the endless replays. The link won't go away. So it's going to be actually hosted on private YouTube.
I think that's all.
All righty. Okay. All right, Miss Mila. We'll go ahead and end the Zoom call. Was there one more chat there? Thank you. You're welcome, Connie.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, Mila. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.